Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. My name is Dawn Block. I am a local realtor in the Schaumburg area over at Century 21 Integra, and I am your host for this live stream. So I want to thank everybody who joins us and who's so dedicated and watches my live streams. Before I get to my special guest, the reason why I do this is because I want to support our local businesses. I want you to get to know a little bit about their business, plus about them, because there are people that are actually behind the businesses that you really should get to know. Also, I have some little bit of housekeeping items that I like to go through. So I have, let me pull them up. Yes, it worked. I love when people interact. So if you're out there and you're seeing this, maybe throw me a thumbs up, throw me some hearts, just let me know that you're out there. And I like interaction. So especially with our special guests, if you wouldn't mind, if you have any questions for our special guests, or if you want to say hello, you can always go in the comments of the feed, which we're in Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also YouTube, but I'm forgetting one, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. So we're in all of these feeds, so you can watch wherever you are. And just like I said, comment and let us know that you're there. Let's do this. We're going to take a moment here, and we are going to introduce my special guest, Zach Greenberger. He is with Aegis Construction. Zach, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block.
Oh, thank you very much, Dawn. I'm excited to talk through everything that we have queued up, and no, I appreciate the opportunity. It's great. I love how you support local businesses, and having known you for a while now, it's always fun to talk about something that's a little bit more directly related.
Oh, well, thank you. So, Zach, would you let us know a little bit about what you did before you were part of the company that you're with now?
Yeah. So like a lot of people in their career, I did not think I would be at a roofing company. Like a lot of people don't think they necessarily might become a realtor or become a financial advisor. I was very much in that same path. And I've actually worked at marketing agencies since 2013, more on the local level from about 2015 to 2021, and a little bit more on the national level, helping some bigger brands, from a national campaign standpoint. So it was a big transition, just as big of a transition as going from a marketing agent to a marketing agency to a roofing company.
So can you tell us a little bit, what was your aha moment when you started your job over at Aegis Construction?
So the biggest thing for me, and I always like to start off and say that I've known a lot of these guys at Aegis all the way dating back to middle school and high school. Our owner, Bobby, I've known his family, his cousins, even through high school, grew up in the town one over from me in Roselle and Bloomingdale. So obviously still have a lot of local ties, but the biggest aha moment for me was exactly that. It was getting back into the local scene of knowing the people that we're working with. I've been involved with the Schaumburg Business Association since 2017. I've been involved with the Bloomingdale Chamber of Commerce since 2013. So I've had a lot of longstanding relationships that were all built on that local business level. And having done the national agency thing for a handful of years, I was really sort of missing that part of my day-to-day life, which was, as Dawn, this exceptionally well, but how much of the local chamber events and the networking events can really help drive those relationships that are beneficial to everyone. And so that was the big aha moment for me, was really, really starting to miss that local connection. And then obviously when I connected with Bobby in 2014, it was seeing how he had grown Aegis, that, I knew it was 10 years old. He started it in November of 2015. And then when I heard him say that the company had grown to almost 60 people and they had 2 offices in Elmhurst and Villa Park, it was a really interesting conversation to see how he got there. Most people know roofing and they think exactly what majority of the world thinks, right? There's a stigma around it. We don't try to hide from it because it's the companies that do things right that make it easy to say, there's the bad actors out there, but there are, again, in every world. But for us, it was really seeing how he has grown, how he focuses on not just the weather and not just driving insurance claims to build revenue. There's a lot of other components to Aegis that that he's really done a good job growing. And that was sort of that aha moment. It was the local side of things and getting back into sort of the more Chicagoland focused markets for me personally. But then also just seeing how great of a job Bobby had done and what a professional organization he had set up.
Well, I'm happy that you're here. I can see the passion about the job that you're in. You can definitely see it. It comes out of you that you're very passionate about what you're talking about. So thank you again for doing it. For everybody out there, I have information for Zach scrolling at the bottom of your screen. So it's easy to get his phone number, his email, or there is actually also a QR code in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. I hope it is the left that I'm saying it, but it's there. You'll see it. You can scan it because it will take you to their website. So I just wanted to make that little side note. I was hoping that maybe what you could do is, before I ask you that, you know what? How rude of me. How rude of me. I need to go and check out and see who's here. So let's check out some of the comments here. We have, so Yosef says hi. Is this somebody you know?
It's not. Hi, Yosef.
Well,
Yusuf.
I'm glad that you're joining us. And again, Nasuko, I want to say thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. We have the Beast Elijah. Well, again, hello, and thank you for joining on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. I really do appreciate you joining us for this episode. Maybe you'll learn something. So again, if you have any questions, you can definitely ask Zach questions on any of the things that we go over. But, Zach, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about Aegis as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, so Aegis at its core is a roofing, gutter, siding, and windows company. So we deal primarily in the residential market. We also do help commercial flat roofs in terms of people that, whether you own a gas station and you have a flat roof, or you have a church with a flat roof, or anything larger, we can handle flat roofs from a commercial. But majority of our business is in the residential market. So we work really in two big buckets in terms of how we help people with their homes in terms of, our side of the business. One, like we're going to talk about a lot today, it's when someone is impacted by weather and they're going through their insurance and helping, from the first step of that, of filing a claim, all the way through getting permits and after the construction build, getting everything closed out. And then the other side that we help people with is what we call retail. So it's just homeowners that are paying out of pocket to improve the look of their home or fix an issue, or it's just a preference, right? We've lived in our house for 20 years and it's always been green and we want it to be blue. So we work with that. But yeah, generally just at the top level, it's roofing, gutter, siding, and windows. And windows is as simple as someone just needs to replace their windows because they're realizing that their basement or their master bedroom, when it gets to be December, is a lot colder than the rest of the house.
And you do have. I'm gonna pop this up because we're gonna show some of the work that that Aegis has done. Can you explain some of the pictures that I have up on the screen and just prompt me to go to the next? Oh wait, hold on. I have to go to. I'll start with the first one. Okay, tell us a little bit about these pictures.
Yeah, so one of the things that I love the most about what we do at Aegis is the drastic difference that it can have on someone's house. Not just the visual side, but helping with home values, helping with curb appeal. It's a really fun process because a lot of the conversation's hypothetical, and then literally after the build is done, you get something that within 3 or 4 days of work can ultimately transform your home in a total 180. So on the left is obviously this is a one house, but the house in Itasca. On the left was the before. It was sort of how it was built. Someone else had chosen the colors. The homeowner wanted to make it more their style, look a little bit more contemporary. So what we helped them do was replace the roof, all of the hardy and the siding on the house. We updated the pillars, we updated the garage door color, and so the end result is the home on the right. So it's a lot more personalized to their style. It's a lot more contemporary look, and ultimately just gave it a nice facelift from a curb appeal standpoint. So the next one is very similar. So this is a home that was in River Forest. On the left, this was actually a person that through the real estate transaction process learned that the siding that was on the house was not installed correctly, and there was a whole bunch of issues with it. So The buyer was able to ask for a credit, receive credit to replace the siding. And in that, we had, got connected with them, and we were able to help them, kind of same story as last time, make it more their style. They wanted to go from sort of that traditional horizontal tan to more of a vertical board and batten, and they like that dark color
sharp.
with the white accent. So yeah, so it's more of a personal style, right? That's what your house is. It's a reflection of you. It's a reflection of everything. And this last one was more on the insurance side, right? So on the left, it's an aging roof with had a lot of weather impacted issues. It was in a town that was impacted with hail, and ultimately we were connected with the homeowners, and we were able to help them go through that process. And ultimately, the picture on the right you can see is a brand new roof, different color again.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so for them, it's getting the new roof. We help them sort of fulfill everything they need to from the insurance side, and ultimately they get a new roof and the peace of mind that they don't have to worry about any future issues that come from weather or any future leaks or anything like that might have been hidden and not known. So we were able to help them replace that roof.
Well, thank you for letting us show that. I wanted to just before we go to the next question, I want to bring somebody on here, Kathy Facenda. Great info, Dawn and Zach. So, Kathy, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. I'm sure Zach likes the support. So what we'd like to do now is I want to ask, right now your roof could be the reason you can't sell your home, and that's what you've been kind of mentioning, or maybe you might not even be able to insure it. Or even buy one. But Zach, what has changed in the last couple of years with roofing and insurance that homeowners are not aware of?
So instead of talking for about 3 hours like I could on this, because there's been so many changes. Even just the last year, and especially in the upcoming years, there is going to be some drastic differences with what homeowners are going to be seeing with their insurance. The two biggest changes right now is how deductibles are working, and then ultimately what's covered. So deductible changes, most people are familiar, especially if you've been in your home for a while, to seeing something like $1,000 deductible, $1,500, $2,500, kind of just depending on where you talked with your agent and what your monthly premiums are versus your deductible level. Most carriers at this point for this year's renewals, and especially rolling through later this year into next year, are changing to a 1% deductible of your home's value for wind and hail. So you could easily, without changing anything on your house, you might currently have a $1,500 deductible for wind and hail. And if you live in a $500,000 house value, fair market value, what you would sell it for value, that's immediately going to go to $5,000 at 1%. So one of the biggest changes is in the deductible amounts. The second thing is what's getting covered. It used to be that anything that was impacted by weather, obviously this is insurance specific. So all of the vents on your house, your downspouts, your gutters, all the powered vents, attic vents, things like that, where it might show cosmetic marks where hail has hit. So, we always sort of say the easiest way to tell is if you look at your soft metals and someone looks like it threw a handful of marbles at it. But if those are now becoming less and less covered. It's a change that's been happening in the very recent past, and it's going to be more into the immediate future. But insurance companies aren't paying for cosmetic damage anymore. They're only going to be paying for functional damage. So if your vent on the roof is dented, but it still works fine, they're not going to be covering that. So the two biggest changes I would say are definitely how deductibles are working and what's being covered versus what's not being covered moving forward. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest thing I would recommend for homeowners is just when you get your renewals, make sure you're paying attention to those changes, because once those are in, they're in.
Okay. So are roofs becoming one of the biggest deal killers in real estate today?
I don't know if I would say they're one of the biggest deal killers, but they definitely can be. It's a conversation that needs to happen more and more in the real estate transaction. One of the things that we've been seeing is, in recommending when we talk with agents and we do presentations to groups of agents, is it should be a conversation point almost immediately. And it's just because it's such a high dollar item, right? And I think you and I have joked around before about if GFCI outlets are your biggest concern, you have a really great real estate transaction going, right? It might be a couple $100 to have a certified electrician come change out a couple outlets. But if there's a roofing issue, I mean, you could be talking about $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 issues. So again, I don't know if it's necessarily a biggest killer, but it definitely should be one of the biggest considerations because of the dollar amount.
Definitely. So at what age does a roof start becoming a problem for insurance companies?
So specific to insurance companies, it's typically about 10 to 12 years. That does not mean that if you have a 10 to 12-year-old roof on your house currently, that it's going to be this big issue moving forward. And the next time we get rain, you're going to have water in your house. But from the insurance policy standpoint, when a roof hits 10 to 12 years, that's typically when carriers are looking to move homeowners, or especially if it's a new homeowner with a roof that hits that 10 to 12 years, of switching them from a replacement cost value policy to an actual cash value policy.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so replacement cost value is a little bit more expensive on your monthly and annual premiums, but what the insurance companies typically will pay for is the full cost of the repair. So if you have a 15 or 20-year-old roof and we have a weather event and it's warranted and justified to use a claim because of issues with your roof, they'll typically pay for the whole project outside of your deductible. With an actual cash value policy, they take into consideration depreciation. So same thing, you could put in the exact same claim, the exact same storm on the exact same house. Where it's a benefit is that it's typically less over the course of the policy. So you're saving money every month and every year on what you're paying into your policy. But if you have a 20-year-old roof and your insurance provider has deemed that it's supposed to have a 25-year lifespan, even if they approve your insurance claim, you're only going to get paid for 1/5 of your roof cost replacement. So the difference is RCV does not subtract depreciation from your insurance claim, whereas actual cash value does.
So are you seeing insurance companies deny coverage based on the condition of the roof?
Yes. A lot of these kind of conversations, and like I mentioned, presentations I've done to other groups of agents, actually stemmed from a friend of mine who's in the insurance world and a friend of mine who's in the mortgage world. And they had a mutual client that they were both representing to buy the house, and the roof was only 12 years old. And the insurance carrier that my friend was with essentially said, we can't, underwriting won't let us write this homeowner's policy, which to not many people, or to surprise a lot of people, right? It's only a 12-year-old roof. They were very shocked to hear that it was a huge issue in terms of the actual, like I said, they were getting to the final hours and just the last checkbox was just get your homeowner's policy, right? Like it normally is. Right. And this became a huge issue. And so, that the problem in terms of what they're denying, sometimes it's just based off age. And that in the real estate transaction world, obviously for everyone involved, when something comes up that late in the process, it can be quite scary.
Yes. So are they using drones now, and what are they flagging?
So insurance companies are actually, and again, every company is different, so there's no real blanket statement that's a universal truth. But one carrier I know specifically is using satellite images, much like you would see on Google Maps. So they pull, I think it's between 8 and 12 images of your home. So if you're going to buy at 123 Main Street, they pull that address. They grade based off the best of that set of photos, but they are satellite images. So
how accurate is that?
So the tricky part is that you're relying on satellite images from thousands of feet up, zoomed in on your house, to essentially have an insurance carrier decide on essentially the fate of your home insurance without actually sending someone up to the roof. If they were using drones, it might actually be a little bit better because you can get in and zoom and see some issues with the roof. Right. The best solution is always going to be have someone to go up on your roof in person and check it out, though. All the satellite images and drones, they're good, and they have their benefit of being able to do it remotely some of the times, but nothing's ever going to beat having someone up there being, a couple feet away and being able to take close-up pictures of your roof.
So before I go on to the next question, I just want to acknowledge Chris Black. Great topic, good info. Thank you. You're welcome, Chris, and thanks for joining the show. I wonder who he is. What are the insurance companies? What are the insurance companies actually looking for when they're doing the inspection on the roof?
Yeah. So the short answer, and it's wear and tear.
Okay.
And if you actually could pull up the photo
Yeah.
of that granule loss, I'll show you
Yes. Yes.
a
Yes.
really good example. So
Yes.
this roof is this picture is a really good example of a roof where you can see a lot of the black behind the color of the granules, because over time those granules start to, you know, literally just come off the shingles because it's the weather, it's rain, it's water, it's everything all combined. It's just generally granule loss. So that's one of the bigger things that they're looking for.
Mhm.
You can pull that down, but just generally speaking, it's wear and tear, right? Because the biggest thing for insurance carriers is that there's two different types of decisions, especially when it comes to homes, right? There's either a singular weather event where it caused the issues on the roof. Sometimes it's as simple as a tree fell through a roof because of wind. Sometimes it's, hey, there's a bad hailstorm. The homeowner is responsible to show that any damage on the roof was caused by weather. And then the flip side is that it's wear and tear, right? If it's just old, that's nothing that the insurance is responsible for, because that's just the nature of what happens. So granule loss is a really big one. Typically in those satellite images, that's the easiest thing to see, because even when you're zoomed in on the satellite image, you still feel like you're about 100 feet above the roof, and,
Yeah.
and that's about what you can see.
Can a buyer still close on a home if the roof has issues?
Yes, absolutely, right. And there's nothing that legally says that a house can't be sold if there's
No.
roof issues. It just becomes a bigger part of the conversation on the financial the analysis of, if you have two houses that are all you love equally, they're both in great school districts, you're equally apart from your family members and your friends, but one house has a roof that's 4 years old and has no concerns, and the other house has a roof that's 18 years old. The financial decision is, do we like one house so much more than the other that we're willing to take on the risk of possibly having to pay out of pocket to do a roof, call it 5 years down the road? So it really, I don't think it will stop a buyer from, I don't think it's going to, in
Really
most
deal.
cases, stop a
Yeah.
buyer from buying. But the conversation does need to come up where, if the roof is in poor condition, is there a buyer's credit? Is there a way to work this
Right.
out? That's where obviously someone would lean on the advice from someone like yourself in the scenario of what's the best case to move forward. Because
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, like I said in the beginning, it's not like we're talking about a couple $100 to replace a roof. It's a bigger financial risk that a buyer would be taking on. So you have to build that into your thought process and that financial analysis of considering all costs when you look at the house.
When should a homeowner file a claim versus just replacing the roof?
When it's justified, and I know that that's sort of a loaded point,
Yeah.
but one of the biggest things we see in it is people that just want to file a claim when there's a stick on the roof. That's absolutely not the right thing. A homeowner should file a claim when they've talked with someone like Aegis or another professional who's going to get on the roof and actually look and see what kind of damage there is on the roof. Was it affected by a weather event? Is it just wear and tear? And ultimately understanding in the professional, in what we do at Aegis, is understand the different types of policies. Are there exclusions on the policy? Being able to go up, take those pictures, and ultimately make the decision with the homeowner. If it's something where there's a couple shingles missing and it's a 2-year-old roof and a repair might cost a couple $100, absolutely do not put in a claim, right? Because it's only financially sound when the claim is going to be worthwhile. So like I said, the worst thing you can do as a homeowner is put in a claim that's either not justified or you're unsure of. So there's a lot of consideration as to when a homeowner should make a claim, but always start with talking with your agent, confirming all of your coverages, and then having a professional actually go in. When and if that's not viable and you just have a roof that needs replaced, that might be when it makes sense to just be paying out of pocket, or with Aegis, we have some financing options to replace the roof. And ultimately, like I said, there's a lot of benefits. You have better curb appeal, you have a better home value, and ultimately, when you do replace the roof and you're doing it retail or homeowner paid, it can even help you potentially on saving on your premiums, because the risk of a new roof is a lot less.
So what's the biggest mistake homeowners make when filing a claim?
Everything that I just said of not actually trusting someone, talking with someone who isn't actually going up on the roof and saying, hey, there was a storm or something in your area. Like I said before in the beginning, we understand that roofing has a stigma, right? There's a lot of things that companies do that don't take into consideration how important an insurance claim is to an individual homeowner. Just broadly speaking, the approach of some companies is if we put in 10 claims and we get 3 that pay out, hey, look at us, we make a whole bunch of money and we go back to a different state or we change our company name. And that's the stigma of the industry. The biggest mistake is not finding someone they trust, work with someone local, and then look for someone that you can do some research on, making sure that the roofing company or exterior company is licensed in Illinois, is insured. It's all the things that you would do when you're looking at every other company. Look and see if they have a brick and mortar, check out and see if they have a website, see how long they've been incorporated. There's a lot of basic research you can do. And unfortunately, most homeowners aren't aware of some of these things. So ultimately, the biggest claim is putting in one when it's just not justified because it becomes a headache for everyone, the homeowner, the insurance company, and the insurance agent.
So if you're filing a claim, can it hurt you in the long run?
Unjustified claims, yes, because even a claim that gets denied is still on your record, and then you just sort of have this lingering claim that didn't benefit anyone. In terms of areas that have had storms, a lot of people ask us, like, is our insurance rate going to go up?
Yeah.
Your insurance rate typically, and again, it's hard to make a sort of a blanket statement in this, but in areas where storms have hit, rates are going to go up universally, right? It's how insurance makes their money back. So if you put in a claim, and for example, in Bolingbrook, they had 4-inch plus hail. In Darien, in March, they had 3+ inch hail. Rates are going to go up in those areas regardless, unfortunately. So in a lot of cases, it's not necessarily if you put in a claim or not. It's just if your area was affected by the storm. So ultimately, rates are going to be sort of forever changing regardless. But claims really only hurt you in the long term if you're putting in bad claims and getting bad advice to do so.
So I'm going to take a moment. Let's acknowledge. What is it? Janet Zajac says, I see you, but I have to read. So the sound must not be playing for you. And then she says, okay, I shut off the sound, caption on. So now she's reading everything. So that's good. That's good. At least she's getting some of the good info that we're giving. So that's great. So if someone was thinking about selling, should they replace their roof first?
So if you want to pull up this drone video, I can show you as I'm talking here. So ultimately, it's a financial decision, right? It's a case-by-case thing. The biggest decision is going to be doing the. I don't know.
There we go.
There you go. It's going to be a case-by-case scenario, right? If you're thinking about doing a project and you plan on staying in your house for a long time, you get to live with that project. You get to have a new house. You get to ultimately, update the exterior and really make it your own. So this is currently transferring from the before and the after, right? This is a perfect example. It's a new roof. They went from old aluminum siding to new James Hardy siding. This homeowner plans on staying there. In this particular case, they don't plan on selling their house, but if they were, there's a lot more curb appeal to this house. It's got really, really highly rated siding and a brand new roof with new gutters and siding and window wraps and everything. So obviously it's a financial decision, right? If you're going to update your roof or update your exterior before you sell, you're probably going to be able to list it for a little bit more. Obviously that would be where Dawn, you come in again and help them with price analysis. But I think again, it's a case by case, but it does take one of the bigger concerns in the real estate process, like we've been talking about, off the table. And there's different ways to do that. But like I said, in a case by case scenario, obviously we can help people make that decision too, alongside with the real estate expert.
I'm going to take this off right now. Remove it. Oh, there we go. So how are buyers using roof issues to negotiate right now?
Yeah. So again, and some of this might sound familiar because it's really where a lot of these conversations are driven from. So on the buyer side of a real estate transaction, again, if you're looking at a roof and it has missing shingles and there's a lot of concern and you do your inspection and the roof comes up as a flag in your home inspection, most of the time, buyers are coming to the table asking for a credit. It could be a split credit where you could say, hey, if this roof is going to cost $15,000, let's split the difference and try to keep everyone happy. Obviously, there's some buyers that might say, hey, our home inspection came back. We had a roofing expert, Zach, went up on our roof, and it only has 2 years left. We don't want this burden falling completely on our plate. They might ask for full credit. So those are definitely, I would say, more just broadly speaking, a lot of buyer credit requests are coming up in the conversation because, again, the roofing part is becoming just a bigger conversation in the real estate transaction.
Now, I know this is not something I have written down or anything like that, but how about the houses that have those solar panels?
So solar panels, again, from the homeowner side, there's a lot of benefits to it. From the roofing side, one of the bigger questions we always get is does it void the warranty on our roof if we put solar panels on it?
Yeah.
For most shingle carriers and manufacturers, the answer is no, because essentially you have a giant shield on your shingles and they're going to hit the solar panels and not the shingles. Yeah. So that's actually one question that a lot of people ask us. But generally speaking, the economics out of everything with solar panels, in our world, if someone's going to replace a roof, the biggest thing we always tell them is if you have solar panels, you're going to have to add some time for the company to come out and remove the solar panels that installed them. Then we can do our work. And then you're going to have to wait for the company to come back and reinstall them, mainly because the companies that install them, if you do it with a third party removal and resetting, it's going to void the warranty. So we just warn people that if you're going to be doing a roof project and there's solar panels, just make sure you add a little bit of timeline to that.
There's a cost to that too, isn't there?
Yeah, because you are paying that company to come out and essentially do the labor to remove them and reset them.
So what's a hidden roof issue most people miss?
So one of the biggest hidden issues that and it, even honestly for us is really hard to deem is issues with the actual plywood decking underneath shingles. You can see it if you do an attic inspection, but essentially with the decking, again, I'll use the term plywood for commonality's sake. It's just the 4x8 pieces of wood that sit on your rafters, right? It's everything that the shingles attach to. So all the underlayment, all the starter strips, everything that has to do with the roofing system, all sort of anchors to that plywood decking. Until the shingles come off a house, it's really hard to see what the decking looks like, right? Because the only thing you can see is sometimes in a partial attic what the back looks like. That is one of the bigger things that a lot of times is missed, because as the decking starts to age, it doesn't sit as flush on the joists. In some climates, it's not as big of a concern, but in Chicago, when we go from -40 in the winter to 110 in the summer, wood tends to warp. And so that's one of the bigger things that that really is sort of it's truly a hidden issue, right? Because you can't see under the shingles from the outside. So
if you're out there, we have a couple more questions to go, but I just again want to remind people that the QR code is at the left of the screen, and you can scan it, and it takes you right to Zach's website. Plus, also we have the information scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to take his information down, call him later, ask him questions. You can definitely do that. So let me see. Here, what's a hidden? Did we do that? Yeah. Give us 3 top red flags. I had to try to say that really fast. Homeowners should never ignore.
So the 3 sort of real obvious ones for us, especially homeowners, buyers, sellers, everything. One is shingle condition. So if you have missing shingles, cracked shingles, or creased shingles, that is a huge potential issue. So that would be my number 1. Number 2 actually goes back to the last question about hidden. If you have sagging or uneven roof lines or like shingle lines, even visually, you'll see sort of a bump in it and it'll look uneven. Typically, that's going to be an issue with the underlying plywood decking, which really can affect the whole roof and the shingle system as a whole, like I said. So those are the sort of the visual components would be those uneven roof lines or shingle lines is sort of many times often is that underlying plywood. And then the third thing, back to the picture that we showed not too long ago, the granules in gutters or downspouts. So if you poke your head up, even if you just stand on the ladder, don't get on the roof, and you look at or even out a second story window down to a gutter. If you see a whole bunch of granules in there and it looks like colored sand and it's the exact color of the roof, that's one of the other bigger ones that you can tell.
So if you could give a homeowners one piece of advice about their roof and insurance, what would it be?
So again, just to reiterate the importance, I would say my biggest piece of advice would be to always talk to your agent and talk to a professional before you decide to do anything with insurance. Like I said, it can be one of the biggest pains that you can have in terms of your homeowner's policy is putting in claims that are unwarranted or frankly just not justified in being used in that insurance case. So, in terms of who you shouldn't talk to, if your neighbor or your cousin or a different company that you worked with that put in a claim 4 or 5 years ago tells you to do it because they did, again, so much has changed with insurance. And really, even from if someone said I did a claim a year and a half ago, so much has changed that I would say those are probably people you shouldn't be talking to. So talk to your agent and talk to a professional that, regardless of what everyone else tells you. There's been so much that's changing. Really just trust in what people do.
Now, I think I know the answer to this next question, but it says, what should homeowners do today if they are unsure of their roof? Give me a call.
Call Aegis.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Obviously, we'd love if you called Aegis or reach out to myself or anyone at Aegis. We don't charge for inspections or for any conversations. We're always happy to chat with people and answer any questions. I think like I said, the biggest thing, like most people operate, right? You're going to trust your car mechanic because he's a professional. You're going to trust your real estate agent because they're professional. Really, you should rely on the professionals when it comes to issues about your roof. And the best thing that we love doing is telling people that their roof looks great and that they don't have a problem, right? It takes a lot of burden off some people. And that's one thing that we do. But like I said, we don't charge for inspections or conversations. So definitely talk with a professional, call Aegis, call us. We'd love to help you out. And we always take a whole bunch of photos, give you photo reports, and give you recommendations on what you can do.
Awesome. Here's the reality. Your roof is no longer just maintenance. It affects your insurance, your ability to sell, and even your ability to buy. If you're even thinking of making a move or you're not sure where to get started, you can, let's start and have a conversation and be sure the most important thing is if it's about a roof, you give Zach a call and he'll answer any questions that you have. So again, I do have the QR code sitting at the left of the screen. Scan it if you have any questions, just to visit their website. Zach, I'm going to ask you one more time, if you wouldn't mind repeating your contact information again.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Zach Greenberger with Aegis Construction Group. Our website is www.aegiscgi.com. My cell phone and personal line is 678-677-4605. And my email is zach.g@aegiscgi.com.
And Zach, I want to thank you for being on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. I've enjoyed doing this with you, and I think it's an important subject to talk about. So thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's always great to talk about this, and especially because it's such an important thing in your world and in our world. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So again, I want to let everybody or remind everybody too, my next Meet the Expert on the Block is going to be May 14th, and we are going live at 5. And yes, I'm letting you know it is a Thursday, not a Wednesday, but we're going to have Rajneesh, Raj for short, Segal. He's the AI guy. So we're going to be getting into some AI questions and information. So I know that's the hot topic lately is AI. So I thought it would be really nice to have somebody in that field get out here and let's talk about it. So if you're around, be sure to join me at 5 p.m., not on a Wednesday, but on a Thursday, May 14th. We're going to be going live at 5. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining me on this episode of Meet the Expert on the Block. The weather's finally nice outside, so I hope everybody goes out and enjoys it. And for right now, I'm just going to let everybody go. Have a great rest of your week. And thank you, Zach, again for being on my show.
Thanks, Don.
All right. Bye-bye.